process. And with that comes a new generation. And this new generation must come together.
It's over. You have to know. Nobody's realizing.
It's a new generation. But with that, we bring with us the old. And we remain together.
A walking distraction. I'm naturally blackened, unnaturally breathing, like a waste at a satchel. Welcome to my world where it's packed in, at the top of the tavern. How I see when it's happening, all the real love and dabbing, all the boots in the grabbing, ain't no cops in the grassing, all the boots in the laughing.
Gerbert Johnson uploaded a video titled "Why Young Men Are Not Growing Up," which was recently attacked by a YouTuber named Vaush. Now, I say attacked because he made it very clear from the beginning that he was not going into this open-minded.
Something about statutory.
Okay, wait, is this actually...
So I had to flee the scene. I drove deep, recording me climbing the tree. So now I'm not the same anymore. These last few years, I feel were robbed from me.
Wait, he just skipped past, like, half the video, bro.
Was a late bloomer, so I was...
Is he not going to go back?
He had already decided that he was going to try to discredit what Gerbert was trying to say.
Nope. Sorry. Kevin Bacon wasn't in Footloose.
What? Of course he was.
No, he wasn't. You lose.
Rather than him being open-minded and trying to consider the arguments that Gerbert was trying to make,
I think I'm going to throw in a prediction here, kind of based on, like, the first frames of this video.
This video tackled all the stuff passing through my brain on a daily basis. It's crazy to see a lot of us are in the same situation. Go outside!
I think it's going to be a lot easier for him to sort of dismiss these underlying problems by saying just go outside, which is good advice, you know, I agree. But while also sort of not ignoring, like, why you have to say that in the first place, because it's not really a fucking a revolutionary idea that no one's thought of. I would hope he's going to acknowledge there are actual problems.
he instead proposes very insightful suggestions such as, just go outside, bro. Vaush reaching for scoring points through semantics rather than actually trying to consider the message that Gerbert was actually trying to articulate is quite literally the personification of prejudice. Perhaps I scared you with that word, Vaush, considering people like yourself make it their utmost priority to virtue signal and demonstrate to everybody how inclusive and morally superior they are.
Like zoophile, like drawn stuff, it should be 100% legal. In fact, and this is going to be a real hot take, I have yet to hear a convincing moral or legal argument as to why possession of child pornography should be illegal. Actual child pornography.
Let's change the word incel with some other derogatory phrase that involves someone involuntarily being something. These are so pathetic. And then throughout the video, generalize these and dismiss anything that may potentially involve those. Don't worry though, these are just semantics, right, Vaush? But how is it that you could be so narrow-minded on some topics while also being so open-minded to others?
Attached to them. I assign this to literally everything. I don't even think that, like, owning child is moral, because it also...
Could it possibly revolve around the feedback that you get for some of your perspectives? Oh, that's right. Some of your older contrarian notions didn't sit very well with your broader audience. But making fun of incels, oh, that's the new hip thing, new virtuous thing, just ask Hassan. I think that Gerbert Johnson made a really solid video addressing valid concerns that the rest of society is very dismissive of, just like Vaush. He discussed the rise of escapism, the decline of community, the affordability of college, and overall the atomization of many people who lack a greater purpose beyond consumption and escapism.
Noticed stunted growth of this generation, specifically men, on a wide scale. You could point to many things that demonstrate the arrested development of this generation. Men dropping out of the labor force, the college entrance rates being 60% women, 40% men, and the graduation rates being even more skewed at 70-30. Some people say these men are avoiding college or dropping out to pursue some greater ambition, like starting a business. And while that may be the case for some, it was probably the idea for most of them. Let's just be honest, a lot of these guys are just fucking up. This arrested development is also demonstrated by Gen Z's obsession with escapism and fantasy. And it's cool if you like these sort of things, but the amount of people I see make it damn near their whole personality is crazy. And this is because community is dying.
For example, he explains escapism through fantasy and games. I think we all got the message of what Gerbert was trying to articulate here, but Vaush, seeing that Gerbert used images of conventions, immediately tries to score some points.
Yeah, you know, I actually realized this, like, when I uploaded this video. These pictures actually show community, which kind of goes against what I was trying to portray. I think the real images I was looking for is like a guy alone in his room, like a hikikomori weeaboo type with all these posters on the wall. Because like these people look like they're having fun.
However, I think it's more than fair to estimate that many more people, more often, indulge in escapism alone, rather than the few times they go to these conventions, some of which don't go to the conventions at all.
You go there, it's fun, you take pictures, then you fucking go home. A lot of people fly away from where they live to go to these kinds of things. These are events. They're not like frequent, consistent social outings where you can build long-lasting relationships. I'm sure people have met at things like this, just like how people meet at any other event, but I wouldn't call it a community. You know, it's not really something that can be relied on. It's not something that's there all the time.
Right after this, he tries to score some more points through semantics, but I think most of us knew what Gerbert was trying to articulate here, and maybe even Vaush did too. You have to keep in mind, though, that Vaush is trying to discredit and dismiss Gerbert at every single opportunity.
And this is because community is dying, and culture alongside it.
No. Community is dying, but the examples you've shown here are community. It's just not community you like. Culture is not dying, not even remotely. Culture is as, if not more, rich than it has ever been. It is being contributed to by a wider variety of people than ever before in human history. The way we engage with culture has changed, and maybe the culture we have now isn't healthy, but it's not the same as it dying. I just don't like that term because it's usually like, it feeds into like alarmist narratives.
Yeah, I could kind of see how maybe the term dying isn't right. Maybe degrading, changing for the worse.
Then Gerbert calls these fantasy obsessions childish, but Vaush is quick to make the point that maybe it just means you're creative, citing examples of other creators.
Being obsessed with fantasy is a childish trait.
Well, no, hold on, wait. Obsession with fantasy isn't consumerism. Obsession with fantasy could just mean that you have a creative mind. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien was obsessed with fantasy. He channeled that obsession and he turned it into the bedrock of like literary and fantasy culture in the West. So there's your culture, you know? I don't think it's childish to be super into stuff.
But since when do outliers ever make rules? You're just cherry picking here. The overwhelming majority of people are indulging in this for escapism. Go turn on your console after a long day at work, go to bed, repeat.
You just have to learn how to balance that out and make sure you're still living a fulfilling life.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, saying that the people who create these worlds are obsessed with fantasy, and these are great works of art. Similar things to people who create video games. They're like, you know, as an art form, they are incredible, and the people who make these things are obsessed. That goes for Shakespeare, Tolkien, George R.R. Martin, you know, all the game designers. What's the guy, Todd Howard or something? I think this is a bit of a stingy attack on my wording. You know, obviously these guys aren't childish. All I'm saying is you see all these young guys being constantly immersed in this escapism, always playing video games, always watching anime, always doing things like this, always consuming. I'm not saying it's cringe to be into anything. I'm just saying a lot of these guys, you know, it seems like they don't really have a lot of other things. So they really don't have this balance you're talking about. Because they kind of just live for this escapism. This is what I observe.
And you suggest that you just have to balance out this creativity and obsession. But this is precisely the point of the video. Many men are not balancing in the slightest. Hence, many men are not growing up. My apologies. I forgot that you proposed a brilliant solution. Just go outside.
They're really smart too. Like, they had a lot of potential, but it's just, it's over now.
No. That's okay. That's actually like that's pretty retarded. No, it's not. What? Like a 20-year-old who really likes fantasy? It's over now. Shut up. You're 20. Shut up. This is just whiny doomering, isn't it? Yeah. It's just like, yeah. This I have no respect for this like mindless doomer aestheticism where you try to elevate people's emotions with this fake, oh, it's over now bullshit. It's not over. This is really just for liking fantasy a lot. Like, if you're obsessed with fantasy as like a concept, you're a really smart guy, but it's over? Really?
It's at this point where he's misconstruing what I'm saying. I'm not a doomer. This video ends with a positive message. I doubt he gets to the end of the video. But I'm not a doomer. I'm not saying these guys' lives are over because they enjoyed a piece of media or like fantasy to any degree. What I'm saying is a lot of the smartest guys I know have lifestyles where they live to escape. So he's really just underestimating the problem, or what I'm saying. These guys go to work, come home to an apartment or to their family, play Rocket League, smoke weed, and that's it. They don't have anything else. They just work to eat, to cope, and that's it. And this is like an increasing trend I'm seeing with these guys. They don't have anything else they don't have this balance. Yeah, obviously someone's life isn't over if they like fucking watching TV shows. Or even if you like fantasy a lot. I don't care if you have little Naruto panels tattooed on your arm, you could still live a great life. I'm talking about this increasing trend I'm seeing where people live for escapism.
If you know Gerbert, or even use your critical thinking abilities throughout the video, you know that Gerbert is not a doomer, and that he's not saying your life is over when he follows up the prior point by saying it's over now. But of course, Vaush runs with the opportunity to virtue signal again though, even though I think even he understood what Gerbert was implying.
Escapism.
Grandfather when he was 20 years old, who, while being technically the same age as me, would have already lived way more and kind of longer. He experienced more growth, more character development.
No, do not go around thinking that people who grew up in earlier generations had like these super rich, varied, exciting, interesting lives. Historically, most of human experience has been spending your entire life on the same farm and then dying early. If by more experience you mean more suffering, then yes. And the suffering may have caused them to grow up faster, in the sense that life was harder and they had less time to have fun. But newsflash, life is not a race to prioritize your degree of personal financial life responsibility over fun you can have past other people. Like, I don't know what that even means or what that would imply. Like, is a person who has an abusive father has to run away when they're 11 and then has to like live on the streets and suck dick to like get enough food to eat? Like, is this person having more growth and character development? And if so, is it enviable?
Then he also disagrees with Gerbert's opinion on wanting to live a life many decades ago before all this atomization and technology, which I think there's actually an interesting conversation to be had for both ends of the spectrum, considering I feel that human happiness is relative to what you experience. But nonetheless, Vaush seems to just completely lecture why Gerbert is absolutely wrong in every single aspect, citing some bizarre example.
Okay, there's some stuff I agree with, that a lot of people in the past, their life was quite monotonous, and a lot of this character development I'm talking about is actually just suffering. So I shouldn't really envy that. I understand. My rebuttal would be, if you just look at the sheer amount of time that Zoomers spend on things like social media, video games, YouTube, just looking at screens, this is no experience at all. I mean, I guess you could say there is some form of experience, some data your brain is collecting, but it's nowhere near actually living, engaging all five senses, being outside in the real world like all the time. People in this generation spend most of their waking hours, more than half of their waking hours, on the internet. And that's kind of the point I was making. That's what I had in mind when I was talking about this. You extrapolated something else that maybe was like a subconscious motive. I honestly think the real quality of this experience was kind of irrelevant in my mind. I'm just talking about experience, period. You can come up with some hyperbolic example of some kid running away when he's 11 and, selling his ass on the street. I don't know, sure, that sounds like it's bad. But I do envy and kind of idealize in my Zoomer mind that hasn't experienced a whole lot of things, people who they had no internet and they just lived all the time. They were actually living all the time.
The fact that Gerbert's video blew up is evidence in itself that what he's saying is clearly resonating with a lot of people. Yes, it's obviously possible to go outside and meet people, but you're missing the entire point of the video. Why are we even talking about this? Look, Gerbert's not a doomer. He's simply making an observation and articulating it. And it happens to be resonating with a lot of people.
From high school and not going to university, I didn't really consider how much it would isolate me. The truth is,
Yeah, it's unfortunate because school is the time when we are forced to socialize. When we're in school, that's the only time in our life when the systems that we exist within are structured to incentivize making friends or getting along with people. But just because you no longer have that handicap moving out of school doesn't mean it can't be done. Keep in mind, 200 years ago, the average person wasn't schooled at all. Do you know how they made friends? They would meet them through mutual acquaintances, or just when going into town or whatever. That still happens. You can still do that. You have the power to go out and to go to events and to find people and engage with them and make friends.
I agree with a lot of the things being said here. You could still go out, make the effort to meet people. Maybe we'll get into it later, but there are problems with this. I go outside, everybody's geriatric, most people. You meet people your age, they're in college, you're an outsider. Things like this. And I do frequently meet people, and maybe we'll hang out once or twice, but there's nothing really sustainable there, I usually find, because there's no actual community that is in place. How did people meet people 200 years ago? Well, they didn't think about it. I know one thing for sure. Very rarely did anybody have to overthink this shit to the degree that I do, or, the fucking millions of people, or all these other people, the more than 1 million Zoomers who watched the video and resonated with it and are sending me messages saying, thank you for putting into words what's in my mind. The reason why this blew up, I'm not a super smart guy or super funny. It's just it's true. It resonates because it's true.
Now, after this, Vaush actually says some things that I completely agree with. And I know that Gerbert agrees with this mentality as well. So I'm really confused then. What makes this video so pathetic? Not everybody who makes these contrarian observations is a doomer.
Life can't always be that easy, and it's harder right now than it should be. But you can do that work. It's not impossible. Everyone in chat right now who doesn't have friends is trying to make excuses. I'm not taking excuses, guys. I don't care how nervous, anxious, or shy you are. If you don't have real-life friends nearby for you to spend time with, you need them, even if you think you don't. Humans have different levels of, desired social acclimatization, but everyone needs someone. And it's good to hang out with people in person. Put the effort in. Don't get complacent. Stop being fearful, you cowards.
You know what? That was a based rant. I agree with that. Bashing the chatters who are coping with I have anxiety. Telling them to stop making excuses and start putting in effort. That's a good message. And I agree with it.
Watching him go through the comments is quite telling of this very narrow perspective that many people unfortunately share.
I'm only scared by the fact this video tackled all the stuff passing through my brain on a daily basis. It's crazy to see a lot of us are in the same situation. Go outside!
I think Gerbert wraps up his response pretty well, and I think it's encapsulated with, you don't know the first thing about these people.
I think, in summary, my prediction towards the beginning was kind of correct. I presented this problem showed data that represented how this problem was being manifested. And Vaush did acknowledge there are underlying issues, but he sort of hand-waved it all away by saying just go outside, which, by the way, is a message I agree with, because while these problems are there, you do have to take personal responsibility for your own life, and blaming it all on these socio-economic factors is kind of just bitch. On the micro scale, you can only influence your life. And that's not even something I'm just saying now, that's even something I said in the video. He didn't really seem to pick that up, even as he was saying things like, I hate this doomer attitude, I really have no respect for people who go on the internet and complain but don't offer solutions. As he was saying that, the subtitles on my video on the screen said something like, I'm going to make a change. I'll put it up, because I'm probably going to edit this one. So yeah, I mean, that was kind of fucking annoying. But here's the thing. I'd like to think I'm not just speaking for myself. It's like that top comment on my video that said how he related to what I was saying, and your only response was go outside, please. It's like you don't know the first thing about these people, because the truth is the problem has gotten bad enough to where, you know, you could genuinely try and still come up short. For the record, you should take personal responsibility for your own life. Going outside and talking to people is a good idea. No shit.